Litigation. Do we see this growing as we move to a challenging economic period? And a question for Ange, of course.
Yeah, I think, but it depends on the business and their appetite for litigation. I know we do have an appetite for it, but it's not at all costs. We're very selective in the customers that we do take through the litigation process. You know, we make sure that if we do secure the judgment, we are able to enforce on it. At the end of the day, judgment you're not able to enforce is just a piece of paper. So, yeah, I think litigation will increase, but yeah, that just depends on the company, the business. Brand reputation is always important. So, you know, it's making sure we're taking the right customers through the litigation process and cherry picking the right ones to go forward.
Tony?
I think from a consumer point of view, I would hope not, because with consumers, we're talking about, and I think it was mentioned before, you've got your can't pay and you won't pay, so I think you've still got to treat every person exactly the same. So why all of a sudden we would get a big increase people who won't pay rather than can't pay, I don't really know. So we should be looking at solutions well before we get to the litigation stage, as long as people are engaging with us. So I would hope that the answer would be not, because we, you know, over the last couple of years, as I say, people have found themselves in completely different situations they would have expected to, through no fault of their own. The cost of living crisis doesn't create a group of people who necessarily won't pay you. It just changes their circumstances and shocks their system, and they have to recalibrate, and we have to take that into consideration as well. So I would hope the answer is no.
Shiraz?
I sort of look at this question through the lens of the consumer duty, you know, where we need to act in the best interest of customers, and you kind of, and as the compliance guy in the room, I've always kind of had a bit of a challenge with litigation. But then actually there was this really interesting FCA enforcement decision notice about the Yorkshire Building Society, because they didn't take enforcement action quick enough. You know, they thought it was in a consumer's best interest that the debt malinger, and actually it wasn't. You know, the customer's interest would have been better served had enforcement action been taken quicker, and the debt was sort of capped in, you know, the debt was capped in terms of its interest. So I think, you know, we need to just think through how litigation is in that consumer's best interest post-consumer duty, and I think the YBS thing tells us that can be an answer to that. So I think there's sort of two challenges in that respect.
And Sam?
It's a very interesting one, because I think there's a whole lot of spectrum on the people who will pay and are paying. The can't payers, no, litigation is never really the right thing for them, unless it is to do the foreclosure and stop the housing thing getting worse, or in my world, getting the vehicle off them so that their resultant debt is less. However, economic downturns also show an increase in fraud. If you can't earn it legitimately, you will earn it illegitimately. So I think that's going to come about within conduct duty and everything else. There's going to be a big increase in people who are taking out loans, products, whatever it is, with no intent to pay. And in that spectrum, litigation has to be the way. You have to show a bit of a firm hand once you've proven the won't pay intent.